The Nintendo Entertainment System, often called the NES, was released in the mid-1980s and marked Nintendo's major entry into the home console market outside Japan. Originally launched as the Family Computer, or Famicom, in Japan in 1983, it arrived in North America in 1985. It used interchangeable game cartridges and simple rectangular controllers with a directional pad and 2 main buttons. What made it different was how it revived the video game industry after the crash of 1983, restoring consumer trust with strict quality control and iconic titles like Super Mario Bros. It matters because it laid the foundation for modern console gaming and introduced many of Nintendo's most famous franchises. The Super Nintendo Entertainment System, or SNES, followed in the early 1990s as a more powerful 16-bit successor to the NES. Known as the Super Famicom in Japan, it improved graphics, sound, and controller design, adding shoulder buttons that influenced future gamepads. It stood out for its richer colors, advanced audio chip, and memorable games such as The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past, and Super Metroid. The SNES is remembered as one of the most beloved consoles of its era and helped define what 2D gaming could achieve. Nintendo 64. The Nintendo 64 launched in 1996 and marked Nintendo's move into fully 3D gaming. It used cartridges instead of CDs, which set it apart from competitors at the time. Its controller introduced an analog stick for precise movement in 3D spaces, something that became standard across the industry. Games like Super Mario 64 and The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time demonstrated how 3D worlds could feel open and immersive. The console matters because it shaped the design of modern 3D platformers and adventure games. The Nintendo GameCube arrived in 2001 as a compact, cube-shaped console that used small optical discs. It was Nintendo's entry into the 6th generation of consoles, competing with systems that focused heavily on multimedia features. The GameCube emphasized gameplay over extras and introduced a distinctive controller that many players still praise for its layout. Titles like Super Smash Bros., Melee, and Metroid Prime became long-lasting fan favorites. Even though it sold less than some rivals, it built a strong legacy through its library and controller design. The Wii was released in 2006 and took a very different approach from other consoles of its time. Instead of focusing on raw graphical power, it introduced motion controls through the Wii Remote, allowing players to swing, point, and gesture physically. This design made gaming accessible to families, older adults, and people who had never played before. Wii Sports became a cultural phenomenon, often bundled with the console. The Wii stands out for expanding the gaming audience worldwide and proving that innovation and interaction could matter more than technical specs. The Wii U launched in 2012 as the successor to the Wii. Its defining feature was the gamepad, a controller with a built-in touchscreen that allowed off-TV play and dual-screen experiences. It aimed to blend traditional console gaming with tablet-style interaction. However, its name and concept were often misunderstood, leading to lower sales. Despite that, it introduced ideas that would later influence future systems and featured strong first-party titles like Mario Kart 8. The Wii U matters as a transitional console that experimented with hybrid play concepts. The Nintendo Switch was released in 2017 and combined handheld and home console gaming into one device. It can be docked to play on a television or used portably with detachable Joy-Con controllers. This hybrid design directly addressed the growing demand for flexibility in how and where people play. Its launch title, The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, set a new benchmark for open-world design. The Switch has become one of Nintendo's best-selling systems, reshaping the company's direction and unifying its console and handheld markets. The Nintendo Switch OLED model was introduced in 2021 as an upgraded version of the original Switch. It features a larger OLED screen with more vibrant colors and improved contrast, along with enhanced audio and a sturdier kickstand. While the internal performance remains similar, the display upgrade significantly improves the portable experience. It matters because it refines the hybrid concept without replacing it, offering a premium option for players who value handheld play. The Nintendo Switch Lite was released in 2019 as a smaller, fully handheld-only version of the Switch. It does not connect to a television and has built-in controls that cannot be detached. Designed for portability and affordability, it focuses purely on handheld gaming. This model appeals to players who prefer single-player experiences or want a lighter device. It matters because it broadens the Switch ecosystem, making Nintendo's current library accessible at a lower price point. The family computer, commonly known as the Famicom, debuted in Japan in 1983. Although it is closely related to the Nintendo Entertainment System, it has its own distinct design, with red and white colors and hardwired controllers. It represents the original form of Nintendo's first major home console success. The Famicom is culturally significant in Japan, where it shaped an entire generation of players and developers. It stands as the true beginning of Nintendo's home console legacy. The Super Famicom launched in Japan in 1990 as the counterpart to the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. While similar in hardware, it featured a different exterior design and controller color scheme. It introduced advanced graphics features, such as Mode 7, which allowed background rotation and scaling effects. In Japan, it became a dominant platform for role-playing games and creative experimentation. Its identity as a separate regional release highlights how Nintendo tailored its consoles to different markets. The Nintendo 64 DD was an add-on released only in Japan in 1999 for the Nintendo 64. It used magnetic discs instead of cartridges and allowed features like expanded storage and internet connectivity through an online service. However, it had very limited support and never saw a worldwide release. The 64DD matters because it shows Nintendo experimenting with online features and expandable hardware years before such ideas became mainstream. The Nintendo Classic Mini, Nintendo Entertainment System, released in 2016, is a miniature plug-and-play version of the original NES. It comes preloaded with classic games and connects to modern televisions through HDMI. It does not use cartridges, focusing instead on nostalgia and convenience. This console stands out as a celebration of Nintendo's early history and sparked renewed interest in retro gaming. The Nintendo Classic Mini Super Nintendo Entertainment System followed in 2017 as a similar miniature version of the SNES. It includes a curated selection of classic titles and modern connectivity options. By packaging beloved games in a small, affordable system, it allowed a new generation to experience 16-bit classics. It matters as part of Nintendo's strategy to preserve and reintroduce its legacy titles in a simple, accessible format.